What if the absolute shittiest night of your life? The one where you're bone-tired, starving, and questioning every goddamn choice that led you to this dead-end, grease trap of a life. What if that was the one night that could turn you into a multimillionaire? This is Leo Martinez, 19 years old. His hands are raw, his back aches, and he spends 40 hours a week plunging his arms into greasy water for $9 an hour. Tonight, he's about to walk straight into a meticulously crafted lie, a test of character so profound it will either break him or make him a legend. Over at table 9, the corner booth under the flickering neon sign, an elderly white couple is putting on the performance of a lifetime. They look like they just stepped out of a goddamn hurricane, dripping water from clothes that cost more than Leo's car. They're fumbling through empty designer pockets, their faces a perfect mask of desperation. But their eyes tell a different story. They are Arthur and Eleanor Vance, a couple whose net worth has more commas than a grammar textbook, and they are here, in this run-down diner on the forgotten side of town, for one reason, and one reason only. Him. As Leo approaches their table, holding his own dinner, the Starlight Special he spent 3 days saving for, he has no idea he's the main event. Arthur's piercing blue eyes aren't just looking at him with gratitude. They're dissecting him, analyzing him, running a cost-benefit analysis on his soul. Eleanor's worn leather portfolio, clutched to her chest like a holy relic, contains documents that are about to have Leo's name stamped all over them in bold, life-altering ink. But here's the insane, gut punch of a twist that makes this whole story unbelievable. Leo doesn't know any of this. He doesn't see a test. He doesn't see a pair of billionaires playing a high-stakes game. He just sees 2 old people caught in the rain who look like they've hit rock bottom, and that simple, unfiltered compassion is the only thing they're betting on. One act of kindness, born from genuine empathy. 2 of the most powerful people in the state, in masterful disguise. A reward so immense it defies imagination. So before we get into the insane twist that happens next, a twist that will make you question everything you think you know about charity and opportunity, do me a favor. Smash that like button until it turns blue and hit subscribe, because you are not going to want to miss how this jaw-dropping story ends. Now, to truly understand why what happens next is so damn extraordinary, you have to see what Leo's life was really like. You need to walk a mile in his worn-out, duct-taped work boots. The day begins at 4:30 a.m. every single morning. The cheap digital alarm clock on Leo's nightstand gave up the ghost 6 months ago, its screen a permanent, mocking black. But his body doesn't need it. The ache in his lower back is a more reliable alarm than any piece of plastic and wire. He swings his legs out of the narrow twin bed, the same one he slept in since he was 10. The mattress compressed into a lumpy geography of his own restless nights. The floorboards of the tiny house on Oak Street groan under his weight, a familiar protest he's learned to navigate in the dark. He tiptoes past his grandmother's room, his Abuela Sophia's room. Her breathing is a soft, raspy whistle on the other side of the paper-thin wall, a constant, fragile rhythm that is both the reason he wakes up this early and the source of his deepest fear. She's awake. He knows she is. She always is. But she'll pretend to be asleep because she knows he worries, and in her world, a grandson's peace of mind is worth a little white lie. Their house tells the story of a family that's been fighting a losing battle for a long time. The once bright yellow paint has surrendered to the elements, peeling in sun-bleached strips to reveal the gray, weary wood beneath. The porch steps sag in the middle, a permanent frown carved by decades of weight and worry. The windows, rattling in their frames with every gust of wind, are sealed shut with silver duct tape, a temporary solution that has become painfully permanent. but inside, it is immaculate. Abuela Sofia, even with her failing lungs and aching joints, wages a daily war against dust and decay. Ser pobre no significa ser sucio, she always tells him. Being poor doesn't mean being dirty. Pride was the one thing creditors couldn't repossess. Leo pulls on the same pair of faded jeans he wore yesterday, their fabric soft and thin at the knees. He checks the pocket of his worn denim jacket. A crumpled $5 bill and a handful of change. $6.47. Enough for the bus to the diner, but not enough to get back. He'll walk the 4 miles home tonight under the dim, buzzing streetlights. It's okay. He's walked farther for less. The walk to the Starlight Diner is a journey through 2 different cities crammed into one. It takes him past the tidy, manicured lawns on the west side of town, where automated sprinklers hiss in the pre-dawn dark and expensive cars, sleep in attached garages. Then he crosses the invisible line of the old railway tracks, and the world changes. Here, the lawns are patchy weeds, the houses lean tiredly against each other, and the streets are a mosaic of potholes and broken dreams. He passes the abandoned textile mill, its windows like vacant eyes staring out at a future that never arrived. A place where older kids now gather to smoke and trade stories of what they'll do when they finally get out of Harmony Creek. The Starlight Diner sits on the corner of 8th and Main, a lonely island of fluorescent light in the fading darkness. Sal, the owner, is already behind the counter, a mountain of a man with a permanent scowl and forearms like cured hams. He grunts a greeting at Leo. It isn't unfriendly, just efficient. They don't waste time with small talk. There's a silent respect between them, forged in the heat of the kitchen and the relentless pace of the morning rush. Sal knows Leo shows up on time, every time. He knows Leo works harder than guys twice his age for half the pay, and never, ever complains. In the back, in the steam-filled dish pit that Leo calls his office, his hands move with an unconscious, brutal efficiency. A tower of greasy plates, a blast of scalding water, the scratch of the steel wool, the rinse, the rack, the repeat. His hands are a roadmap of his life. Scarred, calloused, perpetually raw. Sometimes he'll look at them under the harsh kitchen light and wonder what college hands look like. Softer, probably. Hands that hold textbooks and highlighters instead of scouring pads and dish soap. The small, grime-streaked window above the sink looks out onto the parking lot. As he works, Leo becomes a silent observer of the world. He watches families in minivans, the parents looking tired, the kids bouncing with energy. He watches construction crews in dusty pickups, grabbing coffee and breakfast burritos before heading to a job site. He watches business people in sharp suits, talking loudly into their phones about mergers and profit margins. They're all moving through lives he can only imagine, lives where washing dishes isn't the beginning and end of every single day. At 7:15 a.m., his first shift ends. Time for the next battle. He used to be a student at Northgate High, a star on the debate team with a 4.0 GPA, and a clear path to a state university scholarship. Mrs. Gable, his English teacher, used to tell him he had a gift. "Leo, your words can build bridges," she'd said. But then the accident happened. A drunk driver ran a red light, and in an instant his mother and father were gone. The bridges he was supposed to build suddenly became walls he had to climb. College became a fantasy. The debate team became a memory. His new reality was a stack of medical bills for Abuela Sofia and the relentless hum of the dish machine at the Starlight. He takes community college classes online now, late at night when the house is quiet, chipping away at an associate's degree one painfully expensive credit at a time. The brochures Mrs. Gable still sends him. Glossy pamphlets with smiling students on sun-drenched campus lawns feel like they're from another planet. After his classes, The cycle repeats. Back to the starlight for the evening rush. The night crowd is different. It's a mix of families celebrating small victories, nervous couples on first dates, and lonely old-timers making a single cup of coffee last for 2 hours, just to be around the warmth and noise of other people. Leo watches them all. He's a student of human nature, noticing the quiet details. The way the young mother at table 3 carefully counts her change before ordering. The way the truck driver at the counter always leaves a $5 tip, even on a $10 check, on rainy nights when Brenda, the waitress, looks exhausted. He sees how kindness moves through the diner, not in grand gestures, but in small, almost invisible currents. At home, long after midnight, Abuela Sofia is waiting up for him in her worn recliner, the soft hiss of her oxygen concentrator a constant companion. She's 76, but carries the weight of a century in her tired eyes. Diabetes, COPD, arthritis. Her body is a traitor, but her spirit is a fortress. ¿Cómo te fue, mi hijo? How was your day, my son? She asks the same question every single night. Good, abuela. Yours? Better, now that you're home. They don't talk about the pharmacy calling about the overdue prescription. They don't talk about the specialist she's been putting off seeing. They don't talk about the college brochures hidden under his mattress. Some conversations are simply too heavy for the fragile stillness of the late-night hours. Instead, they watch old black and white movies together. Stories of other people's lives, other people's triumphs, unfolding in a world that seems a universe away from their own. But tonight is different. Tonight, the universe is about to shrink dramatically. Tonight, Leo is going to make a choice that will light a fuse on his entire life. He just doesn't know it yet. What he also doesn't know is that for the past 72 hours, a team of private investigators has been dissecting his life. They've been talking to his neighbors, his former teachers, his boss. They know about him tutoring kids at the library for free. They know he walks Mrs. Henderson's groceries home every Friday. They know he gave his last $20 to his friend Jerome so he could buy his daughter a birthday present. They've compiled a dossier on his character, and tonight, Arthur and Eleanor Vance are about to put that character to the ultimate, final test. November rain in Harmony Creek doesn't just fall, it wages war. Tonight, it's a relentless, vertical assault, hammering against the plate glass windows of the Starlight Diner like a million tiny fists. The parking lot has become a roiling black lake, and the wind howls like a hungry animal. Leo is scraping the last remnants of dried ketchup off the last table of his double shift. His stomach is a hollow, aching pit, not just with hunger, but with a sharp, delicious anticipation. For 3 brutal days, he has been saving. No afternoon snack from the vending machine, no soda with his lunch, walking the 4 miles to and from the diner, both ways, in the biting autumn chill. All for this one, singular moment of indulgence. The Starlight Special, a double cheeseburger with extra bacon, a mountain of crispy fries, and a thick chocolate shake, is waiting for him at the pickup counter. It represents more than just food. It represents a choice. For one meal, Leo gets to be a customer, not the help. He gets to decide, not just accept what's left over or what's cheapest. But just as he reaches for the heavy ceramic plate, something freezes him in place. Table 9. The corner booth, usually the most sought-after spot, is occupied by 2 figures who look as out of place as a symphony orchestra in a junkyard. An elderly white couple, both soaked to the bone. The woman's silver hair is plastered to her skull, dripping a steady rhythm onto the shoulders of a cashmere coat that, even drenched and ruined, Leo can tell cost more than his monthly rent. Her husband sits beside her, ramrod straight, his posture a defiant protest against their circumstances, but his expensive suit clings to his frail frame like wet tissue paper. They ordered 2 black coffees an hour ago. Nothing else. And they've been nursing those same 2 cups, now cold and bitter, ever since. From behind the counter, Leo watches the woman, Eleanor, open her handbag for what must be the 10th time. Her movements, once subtle, are now frantic, desperate. She upends the purse onto the table, its contents spilling out: a silk scarf, reading glasses in a tortoiseshell case, a silver tin of breath mints, a handful of tissues. But no wallet, no money clip. Nothing. She whispers something to her husband, her voice a sharp, urgent hiss. He pats down his coat pockets, then the pockets of his trousers, then his coat again, his face growing paler with each fruitless search. The slow, defeated shake of his head tells the story before a single word is spoken. "I just don't understand, Arthur," the woman says, her voice loud enough to carry across the near-empty diner. "I know I had it when we left the hotel. I'm positive I had it." Her husband, Arthur, checks his pockets one last time, a pathetic, hopeless gesture. He pulls out a magnificent antique gold pocket watch, staring at it as if he could will it to transform into cash. Nothing. Brenda, the evening waitress, a veteran of 1,000 diner dramas, approaches their table with the weary reluctance of someone who knows exactly where this is going. She recognizes the signs. Good people, bad luck. The kind of soul-crushing problem that breaks your heart, but doesn't pay the light bill. "Folks, I hate to bother you, but..." She holds the small green check between 2 fingers like it's a venomous snake. The woman's face, already etched with worry, completely crumples. "Oh, we are so terribly embarrassed. We seem to have misplaced our wallet. I don't know how this could have happened. This has never, ever happened to us before." Through the fragmented, whispered pieces of their conversation, Leo pieces together their story. Their Bentley, a Bentley, broke down on the interstate, 5 miles from the nearest exit. They walked through the torrential downpour to find a phone, a warm place to wait for help. They were hoping to call their son from the payphone outside, but the payphone at the Starlight has been out of order for a decade, its receiver dangling from a single, severed cord. The man's voice, even in its quiet desperation, carries the unmistakable timbre of lifelong authority. Perhaps we could leave you something as collateral? I have my watch. My wife she has some very important papers." "I'm sorry, sir," Brenda interrupts, her voice genuinely gentle. "But Sal has a strict policy. No exceptions. He's been burned before." As if on cue, Sal himself emerges from the kitchen, wiping his greasy hands on his apron, his massive arms crossed over his chest. He's not a cruel man, but he's a practical one. The diner operates on margins as thin as a razor's edge. Free meals, even for a pair of drenched, desperate-looking rich people, were a luxury he couldn't afford if he wanted to make payroll on Friday. "Look, folks," Sal says, his voice softer than his intimidating presence would suggest. "I wish I could help, but we understand completely," the man says, cutting him off quickly as he struggles to rise from the booth. "Come, Eleanor. We'll figure something out." Eleanor clutches a worn, brown leather portfolio to her chest like a life raft. For a split second, as she stands, it falls open just enough for Leo to catch a glimpse of what's inside. Official-looking documents, what looks like a property deed, and something with an embossed gold logo, an elegant V intertwined with a stylized torch that tickles a distant memory he can't quite place. The couple shuffles towards the door, their dignity a thin, fragile shield against the humiliation of the moment. Outside, the storm rages with a renewed, violent fury. A flash of lightning illuminates the empty parking lot, a blacktop sea of rushing water. Their broken-down luxury car is nowhere in sight. It's a ghost on a highway miles away. "They can't go back out in that," Brenda murmurs to no one in particular, her face pressed against the cold glass of the window. Not at their age. They'll catch their death. But Sal has already turned away, his mind back on the inventory, on the bills, on the relentless business of staying afloat. Leo looks at his meal on the counter. The Starlight Special. The cheese on the burger is just starting to congeal. The fries are losing their perfect, crispy heat, the reward for 3 days of gnawing hunger and 4-mile walks in the cold, sitting there, getting cold, and 2 people who had clearly lived a life of unimaginable comfort, were about to step into a cold, wet hell. The old man's hand is on the door handle. The woman, Eleanor, pauses, casting one last longing look back at the warm, bright diner. And in that moment, in that one heartbreaking glance, Leo makes his choice. But what he doesn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, is that this moment is the culmination of a 72-hour, multi-million-dollar operation. That the broken-down Bentley is parked 2 blocks away, perfectly functional, with a chauffeur waiting patiently behind the wheel. That the lost wallet is nestled safely in a hidden pocket inside Eleanor's coat. That Arthur's antique pocket watch has a hidden compartment containing more cash than Leo will make in the next 2 years. He's not just a dishwasher about to do a nice thing. He's a lab rat about to enter the final, most critical phase of the maze, with a prize at the end that will shatter his entire concept of reality. Leo doesn't hesitate. He doesn't weigh the pros and cons. His gut just takes over. His dinner, his 3-day quest of a dinner, sits on the counter, a testament to his own sacrifice. But the image of Eleanor's slumped shoulders, of her facing that violent, unforgiving night, overrides every selfish impulse in his body. "Brenda," he calls out, his voice cutting through the quiet hum of the diner as he strides across the checkered floor. "Hold up a second." The elderly couple turns, startled. Eleanor's eyes are red-rimmed, whether it's from the cold, the rain, or the raw sting of humiliation. Leo can't tell. Arthur's pale blue eyes lock onto him with a sudden, startling intensity, as if he's seeing Leo not just as a person, but as a variable in a complex equation. "Folks," Leo says, arriving at their table, his own untouched tray in his hands. He gestures to the booth they just vacated. "Please, sit down. This one's on me tonight." A heavy silence falls over the diner. Even Sal peeks out from the kitchen. Eleanor blinks rapidly, her mouth opening and closing. "Oh, you sweetheart, that's incredibly kind, but we couldn't possibly." "Please," Leo insists, setting the heavy plate of the Starlight Special down in front of them. He slides into the booth across from them without waiting for an invitation, making it impossible for them to refuse. "My abuela always says that kindness is the only thing in the world that multiplies when you give it away." Arthur's gaze never leaves Leo's face. Something flickers in those calculating blue eyes. Surprise, assessment, maybe even a sliver of genuine respect. But his voice remains steady, laced with the practiced dignity of the very wealthy. "Son, this is your meal. You worked for this." "And I can work for another one," Leo replies simply. He flags Brenda down. "Can you get them some fresh hot coffee? And maybe see if Sal will let you use the phone in the office to call a tow truck for their car." Brenda nods, a slow, dawning smile spreading across her face. "Gus's garage is still open. He does 24-hour emergency tows. I'll call him right now." As Brenda bustles away, a co-conspirator in this sudden act of grace, Leo turns back to the couple. "I'm Leo, by the way. Leo Martinez." "Arthur," the man says, extending a hand across the table. His grip is surprisingly firm, dry, and strong for a man his age. "And this is my wife, Eleanor." Eleanor's hands tremble slightly as she reaches for a French fry. Leo pretends not to notice. "We haven't had a bite to eat since breakfast," she admits, her voice barely a whisper. "Our car, it just died on Route 88. We walked for what felt like forever in that awful rain. We were sure we had our wallet, but... She trails off, the embarrassment returning. Cars break down, Leo says with a shrug. It happens to the best of us. Arthur studies him, those piercing blue eyes seeming to look right through him. You work here, after school? Something like that, Leo says. And on weekends, trying to save up for a proper college degree. What do you want to study? Business, Leo says, then feels a flush of self-consciousness. Non-profit management, maybe? Something that could... I don't know. Help my community. Sounds silly, I know. Not silly at all. Arthur's voice is firm, resonant with an authority that feels completely at odds with his current, helpless situation. Tell me about your community, Leo. What does it need? It's a strange, deeply personal question from a stranded stranger, but Leo finds himself answering with an honesty he rarely affords anyone. He talks about Northgate High's ancient computers and outdated textbooks. He talks about the lack of a decent medical clinic in their part of town, how people like his abuela have to take 2 buses to see a doctor. And he talks about the old, abandoned textile mill, a massive, decaying monument to lost jobs and broken promises. Prime real estate, he says, repeating something he'd heard Sal say once. Just sitting there, rotting away. Arthur and Eleanor exchange a look, a quick, meaningful glance that Leo catches but doesn't understand. She clutches her leather portfolio a little tighter. And again, for a fleeting moment, Leo sees that embossed gold logo, the intertwined V and torch. Something about it nags at him, a familiar shape from a forgotten context. Brenda returns with 2 steaming mugs of coffee and good news. Gus is on his way. Should be here in 20 minutes, tops. Thank you, my dear, Arthur says, then turns his full attention back to Leo. What was that last name again? Martinez. Leo Martinez. Arthur pulls out an impossibly elegant business card holder made of dark leather with gold corners. He flips it open, then seems to think better of it. Instead, he reaches for a plain paper napkin and a pen from his coat pocket. He writes carefully, his script sharp and decisive. Leo Martinez, he says aloud, as if testing the weight of the name on his tongue. And your address? The question is another odd formality, but Leo gives it to him anyway. 14227, Oak Street. Eleanor whispers something urgent to her husband, gesturing almost imperceptibly towards her portfolio. Arthur gives a slight, affirmative nod and turns back to Leo, his whole demeanor shifting. The air around him seems to thicken, to become charged with a new gravity. Son, Arthur says, and his tone is now almost ceremonial. What you did here tonight, giving up your own hard-earned meal for 2 complete strangers, that tells me everything I will ever need to know about your character. It's just a burger, Leo protests, feeling increasingly uncomfortable. You were hungry. You needed it more than I did. Just a burger, Arthur repeats, a slow, enigmatic smile playing on his lips. There's something behind that smile, a depth of meaning that makes Leo feel like he's standing on the edge of something vast and incomprehensible. Eleanor, show him. Eleanor hesitates for a moment, then, with a look from her husband, she unclasps her portfolio and opens it just an inch. Inside, Leo glimpses not just documents, but what look like architectural blueprints, glossy financial reports, and a stack of certificates with ornate, official-looking seals. And on every single page, that same gold logo, the V and the torch, is present. We're not just stranded travelers, Leo, Eleanor says, her voice measured and clear. We're here on business, very important business. Before Leo can ask what kind of business involves blueprints and a staged breakdown in a rainstorm, the deep rumble of Gus's tow truck fills the parking lot, its powerful headlights cutting clean beams through the sheeting rain. Arthur stands, and in doing so, he seems to grow in stature. Under the harsh, unforgiving fluorescent lights of the diner, he transforms. The frail, helpless old man vanishes completely. In his place stands a titan, a man whose natural habitat is a boardroom, not a greasy spoon diner booth. "Gus!" Arthur calls out as the burly mechanic enters, shaking rain from his heavy coat. "Evenin'. You the folks with the Bentley?" "We are." Arthur's voice is crisp, commanding. "How quickly can you have it running?" Gus scratches his beard. "Well, sir, that all depends on what's wrong with it. Might have to tow it back to the shop, run diagnostics." "Money," Arthur interrupts, his voice dropping to a low, powerful register, "is not an issue. Do whatever it takes. I want it running in an hour." Leo blinks. His mind is short-circuiting. 30 minutes ago, this man couldn't afford 2 cups of coffee. Now he's barking orders about a Bentley and waving off costs like they're pesky flies. As they prepare to leave, Arthur pauses by the table where Leo still sits, his mind reeling. "Son," Arthur says, placing a firm, heavy hand on Leo's shoulder, "you've given us something far more valuable than a meal tonight. And I want you to know, we do not forget kindness." He carefully folds the napkin with Leo's name and address and slips it into his breast pocket as if it were a priceless bond. Eleanor steps forward, her portfolio now held confidently at her side. "Leo, what you did tonight, it means more than you can possibly realize, more than you can even begin to imagine." "It was just," Leo starts to say again. "It was character," Arthur cuts him off, his voice sharp and definitive. "Pure, unadulterated, unselfish character. And in my world, son, that is a commodity rarer than diamonds and infinitely more valuable than gold." As they head towards the door with Gus, Arthur turns back one last time. The storm has finally broken, and the streetlights outside cast long shadows, illuminating his profile. And for a dizzying second, in that specific light, he looks terrifyingly familiar. Not like someone Leo has met, but like a face he's seen in the financial section of a newspaper or on a cable news channel. "We'll be in touch, Mr. Martinez," Arthur says. And the way he says it, it's not a polite farewell. It's a promise, a contract, a prophecy. The Bentley, of course, starts on the first try. As the sleek, black luxury sedan pulls silently away into the night, Leo sits alone in the empty diner, staring at the reflection of a bewildered 19-year-old boy in the rain-streaked window. Something profound and inexplicable just happened here. But for the life of him, he can't figure out what it was. What he doesn't know, what he can't see, is that 2 blocks away, in the back of that Bentley, Arthur Vance is already on his phone, setting in motion a chain of events that will rewrite Leo's entire existence. The first call is to his chief of staff. "Cancel my morning. I need a full-spectrum background check, academic records, and a complete character profile on a young man named Leo Martinez. I want it on my desk by 7 a.m. The second call is to the head of his legal team. "Draft the papers for the Harmony Creek Initiative. I believe we've found our candidate." The third call, the one that will truly change everything, will be placed at precisely 9 a.m. tomorrow morning to the president of Northgate Community College. But for now, Leo just sits in the profound, humming quiet of the Starlight Diner, wondering why giving away his dinner felt like the beginning of something so much bigger than hunger. The diner feels cavernous after they're gone, the silence amplifying the drip of the coffee maker and the buzz of the neon sign. Brenda walks over to Leo's table, wiping it down with a damp cloth, though it's already clean. She shakes her head, a look of pure, unadulterated amazement on her face. "Kid, I've been slinging hash for 25 years. I've seen proposals, breakups, and fistfights over the last piece of pie. I ain't never seen anything like that." "Like what?" Leo asks, still staring out the window, half expecting the Bentley to reappear. "Like you," she says, sliding into the booth across from him. "You gave your own dinner away to complete strangers, the meal you saved up for all week. Most people, hell, I probably would have just looked the other way." "Most people weren't raised by Abuela Sofia," he says with a weak smile. Brenda laughs, a throaty, genuine sound. "That grandmother of yours is a saint, but there was something off about that couple, don't you think? Something real strange." Before Leo can ask what she means, Sal emerges from the kitchen. He's carrying a fresh plate, piled high with a steaming Starlight special, but this one also has a massive slice of apple pie with a scoop of vanilla ice cream melting on top. "Kid," Sal says, his voice a low rumble as he sets the plate in front of Leo. "What you did tonight, that took guts, real heart." Leo looks up, genuinely shocked. In the 2 years he's worked at the Starlight, Sal has never given him so much as a free stick of gum. The man runs his diner with the fiscal discipline of a bank examiner. Every pickle slice is accounted for. "Sal, I can't accept this." "You ain't accepting charity." Sal's gruff voice softens just a fraction. "You're accepting respect. There's a world of difference." He hesitates, then pulls out the chair at the end of the booth and sits down. A rare event. You know what I saw tonight? I saw a young fellow with more class in his little finger than most of my customers who pull up in cars that cost more than my house. Leo takes a bite of the burger. It's the best thing he's ever tasted. They seemed nice enough. Just having some bad luck. "Bad luck?" Sal nods slowly, stroking his chin. "Funny thing about bad luck, sometimes it just shows you who a person really is. And sometimes it ain't bad luck at all." "What do you mean?" Sal heaves himself to his feet, adjusting his apron. "Nothing, kid. Just eat your dinner. You earned it twice over tonight." As Sal disappears back into the kitchen, Brenda leans closer across the table, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "He's right, you know. There was something fishy about those two. Gus just called me back." "And?" "And he said their car started right up the second he hooked up the jumpers. Said it was weird, like somebody had just disconnected the battery terminal on purpose." Leo frowns, the delicious taste of the burger turning to ash in his mouth. "That is weird." "That ain't the half of it," Brenda continues, warming to her subject. "Gus said when he asked for payment, and his emergency roadside service ain't cheap, the old man pulled out a wallet thick enough to choke a horse. Paid him in crisp $100 bills. Funny how he couldn't find that wallet when it came time to pay for 2 damn coffees, ain't it?" The observation hits Leo like a punch to the gut. Arthur had claimed they'd lost their wallet, but he'd paid a hefty tow truck fee without batting an eye. How do you lose your wallet in a diner and magically find it 20 minutes later in your car? Maybe it was in the car the whole time, Leo suggests, though the explanation sounds weak even to him. "Maybe," Brenda says, clearly unconvinced. "Or maybe you just served dinner to a couple of the weirdest, richest, and most theatrical con artists in the history of Harmony Creek." The 4-mile walk home is a blur. The familiar landscape of his neighborhood, the cracked sidewalks, the chain-link fences, the sleeping houses, seems alien, charged with the strange energy of the evening. He replays every moment in his mind. Arthur's intense, analytical gaze, Eleanor's portfolio with its mysterious gold logo, the sudden, dramatic shift in Arthur's demeanor, the business card holder he never used, the napkin, treated like a sacred text. At home, Abuela Sofia is in her recliner, the blue light of the television flickering across her face. "You're late, mijijo. Is everything okay?" Leo sinks into the worn armchair across from her and tells her the whole bizarre story. He expects her to praise his kindness, to tell him he did the right thing. Instead, she listens with a fierce, growing intensity, her dark eyes sharp and focused. Silver hair, you said? And piercing blue eyes? And the woman was named Eleanor? Yeah, Abuela. Why? Do you know them? Abuela Sofia ignores his question. She fumbles for the remote control and turns up the volume on the late-night news. Sometimes, angels come disguised as beggars, Leo, she says, her voice a low, knowing whisper. They come to test our hearts. They weren't angels, Abuela. They were just strange. Mm-hmm, she hums, patting his hand with her paper-thin fingers. You keep that generous heart, Leo. It is worth more than all the gold in the world. It's going to take you places you cannot even begin to imagine. Places like what? Like wherever good men are supposed to end up. Lying in his lumpy bed that night, sleep is impossible. His phone buzzes on the nightstand. A text from his friend Jerome. Brenda told me you bought dinner for some random old rich folks. Dude, you're gonna be broke forever, helping every stray cat that wanders in. Leo smiles in the darkness. Maybe Jerome was right. Maybe compassion was a luxury he couldn't afford. But for a few minutes tonight, watching relief and gratitude wash over the faces of two strangers had felt more valuable than any meal, more satisfying than any amount of money. What Leo doesn't know is that 5 miles away, in the sprawling penthouse suite of the Grand Majestic Hotel, Arthur and Eleanor Vance are reviewing a 100-page leather-bound dossier with his name on the cover. Inside is every detail of his life. His high school transcripts, his online college grades, glowing character references from teachers and neighbors, and a minute-by-minute report of his actions over the last 3 days. He's perfect, Eleanor murmurs, scanning a page detailing his volunteer work at the local library. He's better than perfect, Arthur replies, making a sharp, decisive note in the margin with a gold pen. He didn't just pass the test. He set a new standard. Tomorrow morning, they will make the phone calls that will detonate Leo Martinez's life. The next morning, the world begins to unravel. Leo arrives at the Starlight to find Brenda practically vibrating with a new piece of gossip. You are not gonna believe this. Gus told me the craziest thing. When he got to their Bentley on the highway, there was already another car waiting there. A black town car with a driver in a full-on suit and earpiece, like the Secret Service or something. What are you talking about? Gus said he heard the old guy talking on his phone about foundation protocols and final candidate assessment. What kind of stranded old people talk like that? The words buzz in Leo's ears like angry hornets. Foundation protocols, candidate assessment. Later that morning, during his break between online classes, he gets a call from a number he doesn't recognize. It's Mrs. Gable, his old English teacher. Leo, I just had the most peculiar phone call. A man from something called the Vance Foundation, asking for a reference for you. They wanted to know about your character, your integrity, your leadership potential. She pauses. Leo, they knew everything. Your GPA from high school, your job at the diner, the fact that you help your grandmother. They weren't asking if you were a good student, honey. They were asking if you were a good man. An hour later, Jerome shows up at his door, breathless, phone in hand. Leo, man, you have got to see this. He shoves his phone in Leo's face. It's a local news article published just this morning. The headline reads, Vance Foundation announces surprise impact investment in Harmony Creek. Leo's eyes scan the text. The Vance Foundation, a private charitable organization with an endowment of over $5 billion, is reportedly conducting final site assessments for a major new community revitalization initiative. While the foundation's notoriously private CEO, Arthur Vance, avoids publicity, sources confirm he has been personally visiting potential sites. Leo stops reading. His blood runs cold. His eyes are glued to the foundation's logo at the top of the article. An elegant, embossed gold emblem, an intertwined V, and a stylized torch. The exact same logo he saw in Eleanor's portfolio. "Jerome," Leo's voice is a croak. Is there a picture of the CEO? Nah, man. The article says he's like a ghost. No photos anywhere." "Why?" Before Leo can even attempt to form an answer, his phone rings again. It's the main office of Northgate Community College. "Leo Martinez, the president would like to see you in his office. Immediately." In 2 years of taking classes at Northgate, Leo has never even been on the same floor as the president's office. As he walks down the hushed, carpeted hallway, he feels like he's walking to his own execution. Through the large glass wall of the president's office, Leo sees Dr. Albright, a man he's only ever seen in newsletters, talking animatedly to 2 figures seated in the plush leather chairs across from his desk. An elderly white couple, dressed in exquisitely tailored, expensive clothes, Arthur and Eleanor Vance. But these are not the drenched, desperate travelers from the diner. This is a power couple. Arthur's posture radiates an aura of absolute command. Eleanor's chic designer suit is flawless, and spread across the president's polished mahogany desk are architectural blueprints and official-looking documents, all bearing the golden logo of the Vance Foundation. Leo's legs feel like they're made of wet cement as the secretary opens the door. "Mr. Martinez, they're ready for you." The moment Leo steps into that office, his world tilts on its axis and never quite finds its way back. Arthur Vance stands up. He is not the frail, stranded man from the Starlight Diner. He is a king in his court, a man who moves markets and shapes cities with a single phone call. His pale blue eyes are not desperate. They are sharp, focused, and utterly in control. "Hello again, Mr. Martinez." Leo's mouth is so dry he can't speak. He manages one word. You're Arthur Vance." "I am." Arthur's smile is warm, but it doesn't reach his calculating eyes. "And last night you bought dinner for 2 of the wealthiest philanthropists in the country. The question we have for you is, why?" The room seems to spin. Leo grabs the back of a chair to steady himself. You needed help. It didn't matter who you were." "Precisely." Eleanor speaks for the first time, her voice the smooth, confident alto of a woman who chairs board meetings and commands billion-dollar budgets. "Arthur, show him." Dr. Albright, who has been watching this exchange with a look of stunned reverence, slides a thick, leather-bound folder across his desk. Leo's old high school ID photo is clipped to the cover. Below it, in bold, typed letters, are the words, "Leo Martinez, Final Candidate Assessment." "We've been researching you for the past 3 months, Leo," Arthur explains, flipping open the folder to reveal page after page of his life, meticulously documented. Academic transcripts, work evaluations from Sal, scanned, handwritten character references from his teachers and neighbors. There are even covertly taken photographs of him walking Mrs. Henderson's groceries home. Leo stares at the file, at the evidence of his own life being secretly catalogued. His mind can't catch up. "You've been watching me." "We've been vetting you," Eleanor corrects gently. "The Vance Foundation is launching its most ambitious project to date, a full-scale community revitalization initiative. We needed a local partner, someone who understands real hardship but hasn't lost hope, someone whose character is beyond reproach." "Absolutely," Arthur adds, turning a page. "A 3.9 GPA in college while working 40 hours a week. Your boss describes you as the most reliable kid I've ever hired. Your old English teacher, Mrs. Gable, says you have, and I quote, a brilliant mind and a servant's heart." Eleanor continues, reading from a typed report. "Your neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, says you've shoveled her walkway every winter for 5 years and refused to accept a dime. The librarian at the public library notes you've been informally tutoring high school kids in math during your breaks for the past year. Leo feels detached, like he's floating above his own body, watching this surreal drama unfold. I don't understand. The diner. You were testing me. Arthur closes the folder and looks Leo directly in the eye. Last night was not an accident, son. We had narrowed our search for a community partner down to 3 candidates in this town. We spent 72 hours observing each of you. Your name consistently rose to the top. So the broken-down car. Staged. Arthur's tone is cool, matter-of-fact. We needed to create a scenario where you were faced with a choice between kindness and indifference, a choice that would cost you something tangible. The lost wallet. Eleanor pats the pocket of her tailored jacket. Safe and sound the entire time. The calculated deception hits him like a physical blow. He feels a hot flash of anger. You lied to me. You manipulated me. We created a controlled variable in a very important experiment, Arthur corrects, his voice unyielding. The situation was fabricated. Your response, however, was authentic. And that, Leo, was the only thing we were interested in. Dr. Albright leans forward, his voice hushed with awe. Leo, what they're offering you, it's an opportunity that could change not just your life, but the entire future of this town. What kind of opportunity? Leo asks, his voice tight with suspicion and a dawning, terrifying hope. Eleanor opens her leather portfolio, the same one from the diner, and this time she lays its contents on the table. University acceptance letters, legal contracts, financial statements with so many zeros. Leo's eyes can't even count them. A full 4-year scholarship to any university in the country, Arthur begins, ticking off the points like a CEO outlining a business proposal. Tuition, room, board, books, and a living stipend, completely covered. Taught during your summers, Eleanor continues, her voice smooth as silk. You will serve as a paid intern with the Vance Foundation, learning non-profit management, community development, and sustainable social enterprise directly from our top executives. And after you graduate, Arthur says, a genuine smile finally touching his eyes, you will return to Harmony Creek as the first executive director of our newest project. Leo looks from face to face, half convinced he's dreaming, that he's hit his head in the dish pit and is hallucinating. You want me to run a project? We want you to help us build it first, Arthur says, unrolling the architectural blueprints across the president's desk. They reveal a stunning, state-of-the-art facility, a gleaming monument of glass and steel. Eleanor points to the elegant script rendered across the building's main entrance. It reads, The Leo Martinez Center for Community Renewal. The air leaves Leo's lungs in a rush. He sags back into his chair. You want to name it after me? We want you to be its founding director and its moral compass, Arthur clarifies. This represents a $50 million investment in Harmony Creek, Leo. We don't just write checks. We invest in leaders. The numbers are nonsensical, astronomical. $50 million. More money than Leo could even conceive of. Why? He whispers. Why me? Because real, lasting change has to be built from the ground up, not imposed from the top down, Eleanor explains, her voice filled with a passionate conviction. We can provide the steel and the glass, the funding and the staff, but only someone who has walked these streets, someone who has felt this town's heartbreaks and knows its hidden strengths, can provide the soul. Arthur nods. We needed someone who sees potential where others see decay. Someone who gives away his last meal to a couple of strangers, not for a reward, but because it's the right thing to do. Dr. Albright finally speaks up. Leo, in my 40 years in education, I have never seen anything like this. This is a legacy. But Leo is still stuck on the lie. The whole thing was a performance. Your car, your story, your desperation. It was all fake. The test was real, Arthur says, his voice firm as granite. Your response was real. Your character is real. And in the end, those are the only things that matter. He pulls out his actual business card, a thick, heavy piece of cardstock with the gold logo embossed in the corner, and slides it across the table. Take a week. Think about it. We'll fly you to our centers in Chicago and Detroit. Talk to our other directors. See the work we do. Make sure this is your vision, too. As he hands Leo the card, Arthur's expression softens for the first time. And Leo, regardless of your decision about the center, the college scholarship is yours. What you did in that diner last night, that kind of character deserves its chance to fly. Leo stares at the card, at the blueprints, at the impossible, life-altering choice laid out before him. There is just one condition, Eleanor says, her voice suddenly serious, cutting through his daze. You cannot do this for the money. You cannot do this for the recognition. You have to do it because you have a burning, genuine desire to serve this community. Because the moment this becomes about you, it will fail. Outside the president's office, students are shuffling to their next class, their lives moving along their ordinary, predictable tracks. But inside, Leo Martinez sits in the epicenter of a miracle, his entire future being rewritten by a lie that revealed his deepest truth. But the biggest shock is still to come. The moment he realizes this isn't just about a building. It's about building a future for everyone he's ever cared about, everyone he's ever dreamed of helping. It's about proving, once and for all, that sometimes, in a world that often feels cold and transactional, the good guys really do win. The blueprints on the president's desk are more than just drawings. They are a map to a new reality. Arthur traces a line with his finger. The Leo Martinez Center for Community Renewal will be built on the 17-acre site where the old Northfield textile mill currently stands. We finalized the acquisition of the property this morning. Leo's jaw drops. The abandoned mill, the symbol of Harmony Creek's decay. Prime real estate, Eleanor confirms, just as Leo had said in the diner. She opens another folder, revealing detailed site plans. It's the geographic and symbolic heart of the community, large enough for everything we envision. And their vision is breathtaking. A fully staffed medical and dental clinic, a technology hub with computer labs and coding boot camps, vocational training facilities for everything from welding to culinary arts, a state-of-the-art library and tutoring center, a business incubator to help local entrepreneurs get started. This floor, Arthur explains, pointing to the ground level, is about immediate needs, health and wellness. We're talking primary care physicians, dentists, mental health counselors, all on a sliding scale fee. No one in this town will ever have to choose between paying rent and seeing a doctor again. The second floor is about the future, Eleanor continues, her passion evident. Education and employment, GED programs, college prep, job placement services. We want to give people the skills to build careers, not just find jobs. Leo stares at the plans, his mind struggling to keep up. You're talking about fixing everything. Everything this town has been missing for 50 years. Exactly, Arthur's eyes gleam. But here is the most critical part, Leo. This is not charity. This is a partnership. We provide the resources. You provide the leadership. You will be in charge of hiring, of directing programming, of building a team that reflects this community. Dr. Albright leans forward, his voice filled with emotion. Leo, do you understand the economic impact? The construction phase alone will create hundreds of jobs. The center itself will employ over 100 people permanently. It will revitalize this entire section of the city. Eleanor opens another portfolio, this one filled with financial projections that make Leo's head swim. Initial construction and launch costs, $35 million. an additional $15 million endowment to ensure operational funding in perpetuity. But the real return on investment isn't in dollars. She slides another document across the desk. We project this center will directly serve over 5,000 unique individuals annually. That's nearly a quarter of the town's population. We're talking about fundamentally changing the trajectory of an entire generation. The numbers are overwhelming, but what truly hits Leo is seeing his own observations from the diner, his own quiet worries for his community, reflected back at him in official reports. Northgate High School's computer lab has a 12.1 student-to-computer ratio, with most equipment being over a decade old, Eleanor reads. 48% of adults in this zip code lack the digital literacy skills required for most modern jobs. The nearest urgent care clinic is a 45-minute bus ride away. We knew all of this, Arthur adds, because we spent 6 months conducting a deep-dive needs assessment of this area before we ever stepped foot in the Starlight Diner. We knew the problems. We needed to find the person. He turns to a page filled with transcripts of interviews with local residents. Leo sees names he recognizes. Mrs. Henderson, Sal, Mrs. Gable. Page after page of people, when asked who in the community they admired, mentioning his name. That young man who helps me with my groceries without ever being asked, Eleanor reads aloud. The kid at the library who helps the younger students with their homework. The only one of my employees who treats everyone, from the mayor to the town drunk, with the same quiet respect. You are already a leader, Leo, Arthur says simply. You just lacked the capital. We are offering you the capital. He looks at the employment contract. The salary figures are so large they seem like typos. Enough money to guarantee Abuela Sofia the best medical care money can buy. Enough to renovate their crumbling house. Enough to live a life free from the constant, grinding fear of the next bill. There's one critical condition, Eleanor repeats, her gaze unwavering. You cannot do this for the money. The moment this becomes about personal gain instead of public service, the entire enterprise rots from the inside out. How do you know I won't change? Leo asks, the question raw and honest. How do you know all this won't corrupt me? Arthur smiles, a real smile this time. Because a man's character isn't defined by how he handles abundance. It's defined by how he handles scarcity. And last night, when you had next to nothing, you gave it away to help someone else. A character that deeply forged doesn't just evaporate, it gets amplified. The offer is on the table. The blueprints, the contracts, the impossible, dazzling future. Take your time, Arthur says again, his voice gentle. But Leo, deep down, you already know your answer, don't you? And he's right. Leo does. The question was never whether he wanted this. It was whether he could ever believe he deserved it. 18 months later, the corner of 8th and Main is unrecognizable. Where the skeletal remains of the Northfield textile mill once stood, the Leo Martinez Center for Community Renewal rises, a testament to a promise kept. It's not just a building. It's a beacon. Leo, now 21 and halfway through a business degree at the State University, walks the gleaming hallways with a quiet confidence that seems years beyond his age. The medical clinic has been open for 6 months and has already revolutionized healthcare in the town. Abuela Sofia is a regular patient, her breathing easier, her steps steadier. Her oxygen tank now gathers dust in a closet. She sits on their newly renovated porch, watching the world go by. Every time I see that sign, she tells Leo, pointing to the massive letters on the center, I think I am dreaming. Sometimes it still feels like someone else's name, Abuela, Leo admits. No, she says, taking his hand. It is the name of the man you have always been. The world is just finally catching up. Inside the center, miracles happen daily. The tech hub is filled with adults learning skills that lead directly to better jobs. Jerome's mother, once laid off from the mill, is now a certified web developer working remotely for a company in the city. The vocational programs are a runaway success. The culinary arts program, housed in a state-of-the-art commercial kitchen, has become a pipeline to the best restaurants in the region. Sal from the Starlight Diner has expanded his catering business, hiring 3 graduates from the program. Brenda has opened her own small cafe in the center's lobby. The transformation is holistic. Crime rates in the surrounding neighborhood have dropped by 30%. High school graduation rates are up. New businesses are opening on streets that were once lined with boarded-up storefronts. Arthur and Eleanor Vance attend the grand opening, but they stand in the back of the crowd, watching with tears in their eyes, as Leo, in front of the governor and the state press, gives the credit not to them, but to his community. "This center wasn't built by money," he says, his voice ringing with conviction. "It was built by the belief that everyone in this town deserves a chance. It was built by the spirit of teachers like Mrs. Gable, by the kindness of bosses like Sal, and by the wisdom of grandmothers like Sophia Martinez." 2 years after the grand opening, Leo, now the center's full-time executive director, sits in his office overlooking a playground, buzzing with the laughter of children. A young woman, a new hire from their job placement program, knocks gently on his door. "Director Martinez, sorry to bother you. There's a call from Brenda at the Starlight. She says there's a family there. Their car broke down on the highway. They can't pay for their meal. She said it reminded her of a story, and she thought maybe you could help." Leo smiles. He closes his laptop. "Tell her I'll be right there." He walks into the Starlight Diner. The fluorescent lights, the worn red booths, the smell of coffee. It's all exactly the same, but everything is different. In the corner booth, table 9, a young couple with a small child sit huddled together, their faces etched with worry and exhaustion. Leo approaches their table, holding 2 trays heavy with food. He slides into the booth across from them. "Folks," he says, his voice gentle and kind, "this one's on me tonight." As they eat, he listens to their story. They have skills, they have dreams, but they've hit a wall of bad luck. "You know," Leo says thoughtfully when they've finished, "we're always looking for good, hard-working people at our community center." He pulls out his business card. Simple, clean, with the gold logo of the center on it. On the back, he writes down their names and phone number, just as Arthur Vance had once written his on a flimsy paper napkin. "Let's see if we can help you get started." Later that evening, Arthur Vance calls. "Just checking in, Director Martinez. How's our investment doing?" Leo looks out his office window at the thriving, vibrant center, a place of hope and renewal that now bears his name. He sees the young man he met at the diner already being interviewed for a job in the maintenance department. "Arthur," Leo says, a deep sense of gratitude welling up inside him. "I think I'm finally starting to understand. Kindness isn't a cost. It's the only investment that offers an infinite return." This story proves that one person's character, one simple choice, can change the world. Right now, in your community, there is a Leo Martinez, someone working hard, dreaming bigger, and showing kindness when no one is watching. They are the real heroes. What if your encouragement, your support, your act of kindness could be the spark that lights their fire? So here's what I want you to do. In the comments below, tell me about a time when a stranger's kindness changed your day, or even your life. Let's fill this space with proof that goodness is all around us. And if you believe in the power of stories like this one, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and have hit that like button. Because the world needs more reminders that ordinary people are capable of the most extraordinary things. And it all starts with one simple choice, one act of kindness, one person deciding to help.